Good evening and welcome everyone. Hopefully, every one of you are doing well. And I am Honey, your host of the day today. I'm really excited to have a chat with Mr. Karpe today here. He is partner at 100x.vc, which is a VC firm that invests in early stage startups and aims to invest in at least 100 startups every year. With over 20 plus years of experience as consultant, managing director of the companies of various technology companies, as an advisor to various startups, his book Bond and Baba was featured in Amazon's list of memorable book of 2008. And Ninad has also produced two widely acclaimed Marathi plays. I am really intrigued here, Ninad. Could you share with us some more details about your book, your plays, and about your experience?
Thank you, Annie, and thank you for inviting me. I hope all of you viewers, participants are safe and well. Health is the most important thing. So please do take care of your health and follow all the protocol which your doctors tell you. So having said that, Annie, thank you for inviting me. Life is all about passion and of course making a living. If you have an intersection of the two, nothing like it. And startup, I believe, is the intersection of the two. Yes, I have written this book called Bond to Baba. It's on Amazon. It's on business strategies. Supporting theatre is a passion. Supporting theatre is not something which is commercially usually viable or successful. And I wanted to support theatre of the city where I'm based. I'm based in Mumbai. I believe each one of you should support some art, culture, something connected to the city where you're living. It could just be listening to something, contributing 50, 100 rupees or contributing time. It's important, and in these times of COVID, I thought I should do it.
Thank you so much, Ninad. We are really glad to have you with us today. Let's make these curious people out there understand what goes on in the investing world. Whereas, it is very common for us to invest in stock markets. So why did you choose to invest in unlisted companies, that is startups? Please tell us about your first investment in a startup.
Sure. I don't think there is any other asset class which supports young talent. I don't think there's any other asset class which is so exciting, which has a success ratio of 1% in terms of usually successful. 99% all don't fail, but a lot of them fail. I don't think there's an asset class which can give such asymmetric returns where you can invest 10 lakhs and hope that you can earn probably 10 crores. It's possible. I don't think there's any other asset class which allows you to work with a founder to shape her or his strategy. None of the above is possible in public markets. Public markets, you have to follow whatever analysis or whoever is investing. You have no say in what's happening. You have to rely on information. And yes, asymmetric returns are rather difficult in public markets. So excitement, possibility of asymmetric returns, and a huge passion to support young entrepreneurs. Broadly, these are the three reasons. There is no other asset class as exciting as investing in startups.
I'm sure with so much of your experience, even in the industry, you must have learned a lot of niche about investing in unlisted companies. Why do you feel one should become an entrepreneur as compared to any other thing that is available for the career?
I will repeat this as many times as you want in this 1 hour. Capital is chasing ideas. As simple as that. Those days of ideas chasing capital are history. Those were 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000. We're in 2021, very simple, capital is chasing ideas. The whole ecosystem, the whole world is trying to make you successful. It's the government trying to push. VCs like me and other people are trying to get the best. People like you are doing a great job building forums, sharing ideas, sharing best practices. Everything is available to you on a platter. It was never the case. Ever before in human history, never has entrepreneurship been celebrated, encouraged as it is now. I'll tell you one very simple example, Honey. I love to go to colleges. In the last 1.5 years, I haven't been to give talks. I have been to small places like even, it's not small rather, towns like Kolhapur, Sangli, and even in North. There's a big difference. 10 years back, assume all of you were in the last year of college, I'm giving you a talk. 10 years back, if I asked all of you as students, how many of you want to become startup founders? How many of you want to start startups? Hardly 20% raised their hands. And the balance 80% looked at you if you raised your hand and he's saying, what's wrong with you? If Shiv raised his hand, they'll say, Shiv, what's wrong with you? Today, it's exactly the reverse. I've been to college around 2 years back, 80% kids are raising their hand. So even kids are interested in becoming startup founders. So what do you have? What is there to stop you? You have capital chasing ideas. You have the whole ecosystem supporting you. The social factors also now looking at you beneficially. It's a huge journey of wealth. Startup is not a journey of income. If you want a journey of income, take a job. If you want a journey of wealth, come to the exciting journey of startups. It's so exciting. You have to become a startup founder.
How do you identify a potential startup for investment?
So, I don't want it to be commercial for 100x, but at 100x, we invest in early stage startups. So each VC firm has their own thesis, early stage, mid, second stage, series A, series. But we are in the early stage. First, institutional check. We believe it's the most enriching. We also believe it's the most difficult. Both. Combination of two, so it gets super exciting. How do we decide? 1%. We are in the 1% business. We saw for class 04, which recently announced, 11 startups we invested. We saw 1,700 pitch decks. From that, we selected 11. From that 11, so till now we've invested in 50. When we reach a target of 100, we believe we have a reasonable chance out of the 100, one will become a unicorn. My mother passed away in late November, and I was explaining to her because she said, "What does VC mean?" So I explained to her, it's a 1% business. You select 1%, and out of that 1%, 1% becomes successful. She said, "You're crazy to do this business. What's wrong with you? Your past, chartered accountancy exam is supposed to be the most difficult, where 3% pass. He's saying this is more difficult than that. 1% or 1% succeed." But that's the beauty of it. So we go through a lot of pitch decks. We have a process in place. And the reason we have gone into this is we believe there was a gap needed in India where early stage backers were very few in an institutional format. You normally raise money from your neighbor's uncle, neighbor's uncle's nephew, Bhatija, Chacha, Mama. I think there's a time and need to get into an institutional format. More importantly, we have introduced and pioneered iSafe in India. Have a look on our website. We invest through iSafe. It's a simple model, founder friendly. You may not get money from us, but use iSafe. Use iSafe for your angel investment. It's a fantastic document. We have open sourced it, Honey. We have done all the localization, and it's open source. You can use it. We believe we have a model in place where we can support early stage founders.
What are the ups and downs faced by you as an investor?
So yes, there are ups and downs. I think the up is when you see a startup as an idea, you nurtured it, you invested, and then the startup founder runs the business and makes it successful. Eventually, we are just investors. We can only support and guide. It's the startup founder who has to execute. When our startup founders raise the first money, they get very excited. I don't like to dampen their excitement. I tell them very simple, this is not success. Raising money is not equal to success. Success is you have to now, the pressure is on you, Mr. Startup Founder or Miss Startup Founder, to execute. And that is a tough part. So, that is not really in our control in that sense. The day-to-day, obviously, we don't, interfere with them. But the high point is to see these guys, execute well with our money which we provide. I think the low points are when we start seeing, and it's not a reflection of necessarily of many of you, we start seeing people not fulfilling their commitments. when you have some commitment to be done. People are blindly chasing sometimes a mirage of some idea, and there are commitments given which are not. So when we give a commitment, we meet it. But yes, the reverse also hopefully doesn't happen all the time, rarely, but it happened to us, and we do feel disappointed.
What are the do's and don'ts for startups when they start reaching out to the investors?
Firstly, remember, don't fall in love with your product. Fall in love with the customer. Be passionate about your product, but don't fall in love, don't get blinded by it. So you have to understand, are you making 8-grain bread for South Bombay consumers? I'm not saying it's a bad idea, it's a great idea. But then will you get funding? The short answer is no. VCs do not fund such small niche markets. Your product is not bad, but don't be disappointed if you have an idea which cannot scale. You have to, if you're looking for funding, you have to chase an idea which can scale and scale and scale. I will give you an example. We got this startup founder from Kerala. He was making banana chips from Nendran bananas. They are so very tasty, only in Kerala, and in a very nice packet. Untouched by hand, hygienic, tasty, unorganized market, very focused. It can grow because instead of eating after this 7 p.m., you might want to eat something healthier. So why not banana chip? And that was a big market. So it's not only for Kerala. Banana chips are popular everywhere. So don't look at niche markets. This is very critical because it's not that a business is not good. It's not a VC fundable business. Remember, there's a big difference between fundable business and a VC fundable business. Your fundable business is your friends and family and in-laws and friends all can fund, but that's a fundable. VC fundable is very different. So it has to be a scalable business, number one. Number two is you have to ensure that you scale at a rapid scale, and after 5 years, 7 years, VCs are patient. There has to be some way in VCs can see an exit into that business. VCs are not here for a lifestyle. You may love your business and want to run it for a lifestyle and hand it to your kids, but VCs are not going to do that. They're investing money. So after 7 years, you have to show a path to VCs to exit. So these are some factors that I can keep talking on and on about various do's and don'ts. But maybe you can ask me something more specific. But these are some of the big mistakes I have seen and be very articulate. See, it's not just your idea, but how you position it. I'm sure on this platform you've got a lot of knowledge on how to pitch, how to make a pitch deck. It's very important. It's not something that, mera idea to acha hai, why I'm not getting funding. It's not, doesn't work that way. There's an art to it also of projecting your idea.
So in order to get into specifics, we receive a lot of entrepreneurs saying that we are reaching out to a lot of investors already. We have received some interest from LinkedIn. So is this the right way to reach out to the investors via LinkedIn and confirm the funding from there?
So in our industry, we call a deal which has gone stale, which means you keep on trying to raise for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. You're not able to raise. No one touches it. So don't keep pushing the deal here and there, everywhere, saying something you'll get and you'll raise some money here. It has to be a planned strategy that you're going to raise this much money. This is how we're going to raise. Which VC are you going to go to? If you're going to raise from your family and friends, that's also fine. But have a strategy. Have a limited time period when you're going to raise an X amount, which is required for you to get a runway of 12 months, 18 months, around that time frame. Don't keep your window of taking investments permanently open on a public platform.
Very much acknowledged and very much important for everyone to understand. So for an early stage startup, what are the important documents that should be, ready before you go ahead and reach out to the investors?
So I think you have to be able to articulate your idea. You have to be able to articulate your market size, how we're going to go to the market, how much money you require. If these things you are able to articulate, It's the basic starting point. Everything else will follow. These are top headline things which you really need to have your arms around it before you even go to investors. Investors. So we have funded. We fund early revenue, pre-revenue, and some, of course, we have funded in even at a concept stage. Not many, but we have funded. So it is possible today. Getting VC money is the art of possible. Earlier, it was the art of impossible.
In your perspective, nowadays, which sectors do you think are very much, at a growing stage?
So, people ask me all the time, what should I start? So when I tell them, I am very happy, Ninad, aapne acha samjha hai that money is by capital is chasing at what idea? I said, no, look out of the window, see the friction points, see what problems need to be solved, and then come up with the idea. I'm not going to give you an idea, but let me also, tell you some of the areas which are obviously can do well. Of course, SaaS companies in India are doing well because they can scale up faster. The places which still require some attention are, let's say, agri-tech. I'm very, very, gung-ho and optimistic about agri-tech based solutions. Agri-tech, last mile, there has been a lot of innovation. First mile is a place where innovation is required. And there's a lot of technology which can be used. Healthcare, of course, because of the recent pandemic, now healthcare is getting more and more interest. EdTech has seen a lot of interest in it always. Logistics connected is now going to become a big industry because, with the coupled with the e-commerce and what I call home commerce, logistics will become a big sector. So these are some of the deep tech. Is something which we've not seen as many in India, but we have started to slowly see deep tech companies. Just as an example, the recent 11 companies we funded, there's a deep tech company which detects deep fakes. Deep fakes is basically a video of a person, but he or she has not said it. His words are faked. So it's like I'm making a video of Honey saying that I hate startups. Startups is a bad industry. And these fake videos are floating on YouTube, this technology hold. So there is a lot of these kind of technologies which can happen. So these are some of the industries which I thought I can mention.
Very interesting, the deep tech technology that you just mentioned. It's very much required in this, digital transformation era. Is it important for an entrepreneur to invest in his own company before going ahead to look for investors? Or is it okay for him to, invest zero money and then look out for investors in the market?
So, zero money and getting funded is possible, not impossible, but rare, very rare. So if you want to be in that, 0.01% business probability, you should do it. Take a chance and do it. But yes, if you want to increase your probability of getting funded, you have to put some money, get it to an MVP stage, and then go to investors. Investors may fund you before MVP. It is possible. But some money, if you invest, it always helps to get you to show something on the table.
Do you have anything that you would like to share with the aspiring entrepreneurs or the renowned entrepreneurs out there from your end, which you may not tell them in a formal way, maybe something informal?
Sure. I think you have to, there's a big difference between an entrepreneur and a startup entrepreneur. Entrepreneur can do a business which is good for him and his family. We call it lifestyle business. So it gives a good lifestyle, it supports your family. That is an entrepreneur. You take risk, but the risk reward is such that your rewards are basically for you and your family. That's a lifestyle business. When you say startup, by definition, you have to build a business that scales rapidly. You have to think differently. It is not a profitable business only saying I'm going to grow 10% year on year. Why aren't you investing? Why should you invest? We need a minimum as 100x. We look at a minimum of 20x returns. Will my investment give me a 20x returns in the period of 5 to 7 years? If it's not going to give, we don't invest. And that's the case for all VCs. You have to think of scale. It is not just starting yet another business. If you're starting yet another business, become an entrepreneur, take loans. Taking funding by equity, believe it or not, is the most expensive type of funding. And you have to take it only when you are ready for a momentum game where you're going to scale rapidly. You're going to have a mindset of a business which is going to scale very rapidly. There's a big difference between an entrepreneur and a startup entrepreneur. So understand the difference and then go to VCs to raise money.
So generally, startups are very much eager to get the equity funding for them, but this definitely would help them to understand how easy or difficult for it is to entrepreneurs to get out there and get funding. So let us take few questions from our audience today.
Sure.
We have a very energetic and exciting audience with us. So first question is about fintech. So how do you feel about fintech industry right now, Ninad?
So India has the broadest range, the deepest range, and the widest range of financial services market anywhere in the world. No other market has such glorious range of options. People unbanked, people banked, people not using card, people using mobile payments. You name it, it is there in India. If the market has so much variety, so much depth, and unfortunately, there is a lot of friction points still in all financial services. So there is immense scope for fintech. You have to just identify one problem and go after it with doggedness. Solve the problem, fintech have a great future.
Tell us top 3 factors that you look into in an edtech and SaaS startup.
So in both, obviously, there's been a lot of investor interest recently at tech and SaaS. I think firstly, we look at the founders. It might sound very naive or simple, but yes, very, very critical. Is there more than a single founder? Not that we have not funded solo founders, but we ideally like more than a single founder. And what are the complementary skills? Suppose there are 3 founders, all of them are doing coding, all of them backend, don't have any marketing. It's very tough as investors to invest. So founders' ability to win, founders' capability, very, very critical. Number 2, what is the problem you're trying to solve? Is it a vitamin pill, which is just something which is fine if I skip my vitamin pill tomorrow morning, it's fine? Or is it something which is solving a genuine problem which customers are facing? So what problem you're trying to solve? And last is, how big is the market? Is it meant for only teachers, let's say, in tier 1 cities who know only a particular subject, or is it a large market? So these are the broad 3 things. The same goes with SaaS. SaaS, in fact, has an advantage because it can scale across not only India but outside India as well. If you build a good global product, and it can scale if it is viral, it can get viral. So SaaS does have much better opportunities to scale than a tech product.
In your opinion, what's the future of startups that focus on tourism or travel sector?
So tourism and travel is not dead. It is going to come back. The good news is that people have saved a lot of money, so they'll start spending. They'll start spending with a vengeance. That's a phenomena we call revenge buying, revenge spending. So all of us are working from home. A lot of people have saved money. It will come back with a vengeance. People would have missed it so much. It will come back. It will come back with its own set of regulations. Probably in India, it might take a little bit longer, and hopefully we don't get a third wave and we are out of this soon. But my belief is it will come back. You have to be ready for the next stage. The next stage is basically a lot of tech play in acquiring customers, in selling packages to customers. You have to ensure that whatever destinations physical are there, the health parameters are followed very, very strictly and give uniqueness. People will be desperate to go to places once this pandemic is behind us. So there is good news. We'll have to just wait.
So what are your preferred product development frameworks?
No, we don't have any product development frameworks, lean product. All these are fine. See, ultimately we have to look at the output of it. We don't look at the input of how this has happened, which software is being used, what is the process. It's important, not critical. Eventually, we have to look at the market size, opportunity, and how we're going to capture it.
What do you think about investing on esports?
Esports is interesting. Samsher has asked the question. Yes, it's a new market. It's growing. There has been some investments. I think it's going to grow very well. So if you're in that space, all the very best. And if you're in early stage, of course, you know how to reach out to 100x.vc.
How to increase your reach in the market? Like how to develop market in different states is a question from Adnan.
So there are various methods. It depends on the product. If it's a B2C, B2B, I think you have to use all channels. There are new concepts of product-led marketing, community-led, startups. What Honey is trying to do is community-led forums. So you have to start user-generated content. You have to look at the new trends. The traditional trends are always there, but all these are there. It's a separate topic by itself. If you want to go directly to the consumer, D2C models are gaining prominence compared to the old model of going through a channel. You should try and own your customer. Earlier, it was fine if a channel owns. So all these new concepts we should embrace, because if you don't embrace, you're then competing with someone with the old model.
Yeah, mental health is very important, I feel. So what are your thoughts on it, Dinath?
So in the US, last year, mental health startups have got some of the largest fundings ever in terms of numbers. I would not say the largest in all this, but ever compared to the mental health startups. We have invested in one mental health company called MindPeers. It's doing quite well. It's again the sum total of the fact that people are working from home, people have stayed at home for so long, the anxiety of what will happen. All of this does have a toll on mental health. It's going to be a big issue. It has not got as much recognition, particularly in India, as it should. So yes, if you have a genuine problem connected to mental health with a good solution which you're trying to solve, go ahead. It's a great area to be.
What is the maximum equity to offer in the early stage startups?
So, I'll give you our example, and it's not reflective, but as an example, we like founders owning 100%. Now, yes, you may give 2% or 4% in some small single digits, it's still possible. See, the more equity you give in the early stage, the more difficult it is for you to raise funds later on if your startup does well. By the time you reach Series B, a startup founder will have such small percentage left with her or him that there will be no motivation to work. So it's all a backward calculation of to understand. It's not that, I got 10 lakhs and I gave him 20%. And what's the problem? There's no problem, we can give it, except that if you're going to start raising VC funding, you're not going to be left with any capital in your plate at the end of Series B or Series C. So be very careful about giving equity before you go to VCs. I have no issues in you starting to issue equity to your friends and family, then go down that route. There is always a route of always permanently raising from friends and families at increased valuation. That's also an option. VC is a very, very structured option. When you come to the VC path, be very careful giving away any equity.
Should we be getting valuation done before approaching angels?
No, these valuations which you get done are based on traditional methods of DCF and other methods which are not relevant. So when anyone comes and starts talking valuation, we tell them just forget that spreadsheet. In fact, Honey, the beauty of iSafe is that there's no valuation discussion. We do not invest basis of valuation the way we invest. So we do not discuss valuation at all, and don't waste your time and money getting a valuation report from a valuer, because those are based on a very different model. VCs do not look at that model for valuation. Those valuation reports are important when you're doing a transaction and you have to show some report to the tax authorities and regulators, at that point it is critical. Those reports are not important at all at the time of raising funds from VCs.
After an investment, okay, so what is the average expectation from investor once they invest in any startup?
So I mean, I mentioned earlier, we expect minimum 20x returns from the company. If at the starting point we believe that the company is not capable of giving a minimum, I'm not saying maximum, maximum is 100x. We expect 100x returns from every investment we make. Minimum 20x returns, if you're not going to get, we do not invest. As simple as that. Because it's not worth our investment of money if you're not going to get, and we are willing to wait. We are willing to wait for 5 years, 7 years, but 20x returns we need. So if you invest 1 lakh, we require 20 lakhs at the end of a period of time.
And what would the tenure would be, the expectation?
So we hold our investment for 5 to 7 years.
Okay, interesting. How early stage startup are classified by ventures? Do startup need traction or some revenue structure defined? Is there any defined structure that VCs look at?
So there are 3 types of startups which we may fund, 3 or 4. One is a startup with some bit of robust revenue. Second is a startup with early revenue. Third is pre-revenue. Fourth is with MVP, and fifth is with concept. There are 5. I started with 3. I landed up with 5, and we have funded startups at all these different levels. We funded a startup which, in December 19, which was giving loans to college students, micro loans. They were last year students, final year college students. They came up with the idea. They had a structure in place, concept. We loved the founders, the concept. We funded them. So it was a concept stage. We have now recently funded English language learning startup, which has got fairly good revenues. So it's very different. It depends on which stage you are in. See, if you have some bit of revenues, it's always better because there's some validation. Ultimately, remember, you might think your product is the best in the world, and probably it is. But till someone does not remove his wallet and pay money for it, it does not matter. Some person has to pay for it. The ultimate judgment for a startup is not what great tech you have built, but have you acquired customers. If you are able to show that you've got customers, it's easy, it's better. It makes your path easier to raise money. If you just go on a tech product, yes, VCs do fund, all of us do fund, but obviously it's a very different way we look at it, saying we start then probing and thinking, will customers buy this? Will it scale? So there are a lot more questions to be asked.
I have a question out of curiosity. Apart from the returns, like 20 returns that you mentioned, apart from that, what else a startup or entrepreneur should take into consideration while they're onboarding investors, or what are the other compliances or anything that's required once you have investors on board?
So actually startups need to be equally cognizant, need to take equal amount of care before onboarding an investor. It is like getting into a deep relationship. You don't just get into a deep relation just because someone is putting money on the table. That's a wrong way to do it. You have to, before you go to the VC, go to their site, go do a Google search, understand their thesis. Someone has asked about investment thesis earlier. Each VC has a thesis. There is the thesis on EdTech. Are they on only horizontal technology? Is it deep tech? Is it a consumer thesis? So we have a thesis of VR sector, but we have a thesis of early stage. First, institutional check. And we mentor the startups, take them to the pitch day, and enable them to raise the next round of funding. This is very well articulated across our YouTube video, across our website. And similarly, each VC has articulated. So don't go to the first person who's cutting your check and then realize that there's no matching of minds. Do you get into a deep relation just because at first meeting you like that person? Answer is no. You have to understand that person, figure out it's a lifelong relation. Same thing with the VC.
Can you share your thoughts about food and beverages, FMCG, or e-commerce? at the moment?
See, food and beverage today, restaurants are shut, but doesn't mean food business is shut. You and me eat food every day, and you and me love food, which is just not only home food. We require, some bit of difference, some bit of very variety of food. Indians love variety of food. They'll love variety and they love home food. It's a very different breed of consumers. So if you have a model whereby you are able to deliver at this point of time to consumers at home, you're in a great place to operate. Restaurants may not open so soon, so there's no need for a huge overheads of finding a place, finding a huge kitchen. So you can start business which is able to deliver food stuff at home, own the consumer. Ideally, you should have products which have a long shelf life. And then there are online ways in which you can sell. So there is ways in which you can do exceedingly well in the food business as well.
Apart from that, for my information, Ninad, investors are technically known as celebrities in the startup industry. So let's learn something about you in person. So when you say plays, do you also act or have you written these plays?
No, I don't act. If I act, you will not believe whatever I say. So whatever I say is normal, natural. I just produce them. I'm intrigued with the business of plays. It's an art form. The commerce is very thin, and I just thought we should support it. So yes, I put money into it and produced 2 plays. But yes, it's more as a producer. I'm neither a writer nor a director nor an actor. These are full-time jobs which require you to be in it full-time. And these are commercial plays. When the season is on, unfortunately, the industry is shut now. Every weekend there are shows. So, you can't be a VC and every weekend go to different places and across the country to act in plays. But it's a great theatre form and I love supporting it.
Great, that's good to know. We do have an interesting startup, looking at this industry. What is your typical day? How does it look like? So, in general, is it like you mentioned, you're working 24 hours, or do you keep some family time, me time for you?
No, absolutely. I think in this days of having good mental health, it's critical important. Even if I work 24 hours, work won't finish. We are in the 1% business. So, remember that VCs love to see pitch decks. You may feel that, the VC is not giving you a hearing. They see everything because there is always the fear of missing out on a great idea. So we do, I keep listening to ideas through the day, whatever investments happen, it's a fairly busy day. But other than that, I love writing. I haven't written an article recently, but I do write articles, the book I've written. So I'm going to do some serious writing as well. I always have one Coursera course going all the time. So I'm presently doing a Coursera course on cryptos and cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, trying to learn more about that. So always have one course outside your comfort zone where you learn something. And yes, I love Formula One racing. I watch it very seriously, intently. So if you had asked me for time tomorrow, 6:30 the races at Monaco, I would have politely said no to you. But Saturday today is qualifying, so I do love Formula One racing.
Wow, that's really intriguing and very exciting. Tell us something, in your experience, or maybe your favorite startup or entrepreneur, or what are the favorite personality that you prefer? This should be there in it, or I would not, prefer to take into consideration.
So yes, talking in terms of startup founders.
Yes, founders as well as maybe their ideas. Your favorite sectors, maybe. One you mentioned, agri-tech.
Yeah, so I think you start with favorite sectors, but it's now after some time you start realizing you can't have favorite sectors. Of course, EdTech had a lot of initial interest, so we saw a lot of EdTech. Agri-tech is there now, but honestly speaking, the what I'm intrigued more and more is about what AI and ML can do and the capability of what can be done. It's in fact gone reverse. What do you want AI and ML to do? And that's the question these young founders ask, and they're solving problems. We have invested in a company called Solvio, which does assessments using AI and ML. So if you have a question paper which typically was multiple choice, it's very easy to allow technology to check it because it's the wrong way. But now they have lengthy answers which can be fed into the software, and the software gives marking like a teacher. Now, this is not possible unless AI and ML is used. We have another startup called Vitra, VITRA, which this video now you're going to say you're recording it and you told all the participants that you can see it later. The same recording, if you want to translate it into 51 languages with my lip movements corresponding to the same language in, let's say, Telugu, Kannada, Portuguese, it was impossible. These kids work for 2 years using AI, ML, and they're able to translate in 51 languages within 5 minutes. So imagine, honey, what you're recording now can simultaneously go to so many people. So this is the impact of AI and ML which is happening in solving business problems. So that's something which really intrigues me. Through a problem, can AI and ML solve the problem?
Wow. How risky it is for Indian startups to get into this market, because we know that it's very dicey out there for Indians to accept this kind of currency.
So one is investment in that currency, which there is a thesis around it. You have to be ready for those risks, and you have to be ready to invest conceptually in a currency which is a decentralized currency. See, you have to be ready for that kind of mindset. If you're not ready for that kind of mindset, don't do it. You're ready for mindset, currency is always controlled, which is there for ages. Suddenly it's a decentralized option. So decentralized options will happen across industries and sectors. This is just the beginning. Currency is just the beginning. So you have to be ready for decentralized blockchain-based options across various industries. And then you start thinking of, do you want to invest or not? See, this whole aspect of investment is subject to a lot of government level discussions. So we'll wait for the regulations to be more clear. But recently we have invested in a company called Moving, Moving, which is going to give you information on investing in cryptocurrencies. So just information, Twitter for crypto. It's a new field. Wanting to invest is your personal decision. Even if you don't invest, track it. Don't go by headline news that so many millions lost, billions lost. Understand the concept. What is it? Isn't it fascinating that a currency is issued by no central authority? Isn't it fascinating that it is a self-governing mechanism? All these are fascinating facets which are going to impact a lot more beyond currency.
So AR, VR in EdTech, what are your thoughts in it? Considering the lockdown and the school and colleges being shut.
So India has a distinction now of the highest valued EdTech company in the world. We should be proud of it. We should be happy that India has created a global startup which is valued at that amount. And how did it happen? Again, I mentioned to you about fintech because of the depth of the marketplace available and the nature of services required. Certainly AR, VR will play an important role. Unfortunately, there has been more hype than real solutions. Now we are starting to see real solutions. We are seeing real solutions which will help. Post-COVID, world will be a different world. Even the education world will not continue to be 100% class-oriented. It will be some kind of hybrid model. In this hybrid model, whether it's work, education, home, AR, VR will play a critical role. Education is getting now the importance it deserves, and in the education process, AR, VR will start having a deeper impact.
True, very true. And thank you so much, Ninad. I was really enjoying interacting with you. Really glad to have you with us today. I loved how you openly shared your insights and shared your secrets with us. And looking forward to have you with us once again and take care. Please stay safe.
Thank you, Ani, for inviting me. And I was candid to share a lot of my thoughts. And if any of your startups are looking for first institutional check, go to 100x.vc website and we can take it from there. Thank you. Stay safe, stay well.